such an asshole.
Hello, children. Old Cappy. And yeah, I'm sure the audio is not that good, but it's the best I can do with the place I'm at. And so we got to bang it out because Cappy is real busy and I'm getting burnt out. So, hey, Cappy, got a philosophical video response question for you. You mentioned that around 100 billion humans have ever lived, but only a tiny minority have ever been notable enough to shape human history. You also made a compelling case that a family name is not a legacy, i.e., we remember Tesla or Mozart, but not their families. Therefore, eschewing the ordinary time suck that is raising children or accruing debt, should we aim to become one of these influential people on our 79-year average life expectancy, or instead focus on having fun climbing the hedonistic ladder in a tempered way? For example, this is very well written. For example, an adept engineer could dedicate their life to landing a man on Mars, a virtuoso could compose music never heard before, or a prolific author could type a quintessential book, or 9 or 10, maybe even. Book of Numbers. Alternatively, all these people could opt out of the Herculean effort required to become notable in their specific field, let alone general human history, and just dabble in their craft enough to pay their expenses each month. The working I've thought of is that you can do both. In fact, if you choose fun only, you probably end up trying to leave a legacy anyway because you'd thin out the number of fun activities available over the years. Yeah, and no matter how fun the activity, it has a life expectancy. Novelty. Let's introduce another concept here. Most people view going to Disney World as fun. Most people view going out to a fancy dining place as fun. Most people view a hike as fun. And the reason why is most people, even in first world countries, are indebted. They have kids. They're very bad time managers. Very bad time managers. And so they are constantly trying to catch up and work themselves out of debt, slavery, time mismanagement, and having more kids than they can afford. So it is a limited supply of fun activities they get. Wish I could go hiking all the time. Like, well, you could have. You just mismanaged it. Now, do I get sick of hiking? Not really, because I love hiking, but the same trail, yes. Do I get sick and tired of having, my Pokeball? Not really Pokeballs, but if I had it every day. But you got to realize most people never really escape those lower two Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the novelty is never really there. But if you don't screw up and you dedicate your life towards fun, okay, you're going to have fun, but the fun inevitably gets tiring. And I would argue that then you're like, okay, what's the greater point and purpose in life? And then maybe you write a book or you compose music or even you go back to work or something like that. So in an ironic sense, if you place fun first in your life and you're younger and you don't screw up, meaning you're not shackled by debt, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or your mistakes, you're going to run out of things. Will no longer be fun. You're not going to want to go to Disneyland for the 9th time. And then you're going to start thinking, I'm going to die here pretty soon. So I would argue not only are they not mutually exclusive, I would say one leads to the other as long as you don't screw up. So, and most people, let's also introduce this concept. Most people who have enslaved themselves and they don't stand a chance, they don't have the choice of either fun or legacy. They're just to survive. That's it. That's they gotta get by. Perfect example, the millennial who went to college for an undergrad in the liberal arts, got a master's in sociology. That person has neither the option for fun or legacy. Their best hope is begging that the taxpayer bails them out. That's their best hope. So for most of humans, even in first world countries, it's not an option. Neither is an option. But if you play your cards right, you got both options. And I would argue that you'll have your fun. You're like, okay, I need, unless God bless you, you could just be a hedonist and have fun all the time. And okay, that's a good life too. But if you have a slight intellect about your curiosity about the purpose of life, you would inevitably, I would say, you'd have your fun and then you'd start working on a legacy of some kind. The working solution I've thought of is that you can do both. In fact, even if you choose fun only, you'd probably end up trying to leave a legacy anyway because you thin out the number of fun activities over the available years. I agree. If one is to leave a legacy, then I imagine it's best to work on something both history and the individual considers worth pursuing. Otherwise, one risks squandering their life on something they may be indifferent towards for a legacy that may not come, or like fads. Like, do you really actually think Ariana Grande or any modern day pop singer is ever going to be remembered? I mean, name the number one pop singer in 1962. Name the number one pop singer in 1972, 82, 92. You know, come. There's an element of luck in being remembered. After all, example, Annie Frank wrote 200-page diary in a key war. Yeah, history sometimes makes the man. That's true. Your environment will definitely play a role if you leave a legacy or not. I don't think, Alexander the Great woke up and says, I'm going to conquer the known Western world. I don't think he woke up, was born and he had that idea. Furthermore, my money is that leaving a legacy is best pursued on your own rather than as an employee, correct? While employment generally offers more resources, 99.9% of the people that have worked a job seem wholly unmemorable. Instead, entrepreneurs such as the Wright brothers or Henry Ford in the 19th century successfully turned their businesses into their legacies. In 2021, however, it does appear that leaving a legacy has become more complex. Humans have solved a lot of simpler problems, so it seems more challenging to develop new invention alone in your garage. In fact, modern notable people like Elon Musk or Bill Gates influence the entire world via their successful international multi-billion-dollar businesses. Still, if we fast forward 100,000 years or over in a million years, even their noticeable contributions likely to become a drop in the ocean. So leaving behind a legacy may only be worthwhile in that it gives us a goal to strive for. We'll also keep in mind, unless we get off this planet, the sun is going to go supergiant. Not even, it will go supernova, but it will become a giant sun first. And we'll all die because the sun will run out, essentially, or consume the earth or burn it. I don't know. Don't, astronomers, please don't tell me what it's just the sun's going away. So there is a finite limit. That is our hard limit here on planet Earth. So when you get off this planet, which we should be aiming for, then in theory, your legacy might live on. But ultimately, not to sound too dark or too nihilistic, nothing matters unless we as a species learn to survive eternally into the universe. But we need welfare checks and stimmy checks. And we need Cardi B's latest song. So yeah, technically there won't be a legacy after a certain while. There won't even be evidence of the human race ever existing. There won't be evidence of the earth existing. Notable contributions like become a drop in the ocean, so leaving behind a legacy may only be worthwhile, and that it gives us a goal to strive for, i.e. a compelling reason to get up in the morning. On my end, I've sailed on a tall ship in the Pacific for a few months thus far, and the only place on Earth yet to be explored is the deep ocean. In my field, one legacy goal I could think of is deep ocean exploration or interplanetary exploration, if that ever becomes an option, especially if that leads to new natural resources. I realize it sounds pie in the sky, but being a minimalist that has not effed up, I am hopeful to need a larger overarching goal sooner rather than later. Kindly, we'll keep you anonymous. So, yeah, thank God. Thank you for the good question. I really appreciate it. Let's go. Where was your core question? God, did you only? You made a compelling case. Tesla not remembered. Should we aim to become one of these influential people in our 79-year average life expectancy, or instead focus on having fun, climb the hedonistic ladder in a tempered way? All right. Here's where it boils down to what you want. Just because people were notable, and keep in mind, Osama bin Laden was notable. He definitely made history, but he was evil. I mean, you could. It's not just, hey, I want to be popular and notorious. It's what do you want to do, and do you want to do good? I would argue is another variable there. But it really depends on you, man. Because for all the Elon Musks or the Henry Fords or the Mozarts or the Genghis Khans or whoever throughout all of history, there have been tens of billions of hardworking men and women who had love and had family, and they didn't have glorious roles. They didn't leave massive legacies. They weren't authors, but they had fun. And as you all know, I say humans are the most important thing in the world. And so, what it really boils down to, I think, what everyone has at least a potential for legacy is in family. Now, we've destroyed the family. We've outsourced fathers to government checks in the welfare state. We have uh, eliminated the concept or the idea that children need both parents, and that, well, that any kid in any environment will be fine. There's divorce is rampant. Just as the divorce rate has gone up because cohabitation, but when I did my numbers for the book of numbers, the divorce rate is essentially the same. Half the time it ends up in divorce. So what traditionally gave humans purpose, reason, and value, and a legacy in life is that you would have family, and hopefully you raise your kids right, and they go on to have enjoyable lives. And I think the one form of legacy that everybody could have would have been grandchildren. That was the gold medal of legacy, where you had grandchildren because you raised your children right, and then you'd have family and you participate in your various cultural activities. And I think grandchildren would be like, you want, and that everybody could have that legacy. But we've eschewed that, and the government and our politics and our ideologies are much more important than family and love. So never mind that. But that is something that everybody, I think, can attain, whether you want to be the hedonistic approach and just fun all the time, or maybe you're, like Bill Gates, he has kids. I hope he loves his kids more than Microsoft. I certainly hope so. Warren Buffett, I think, has kids. I hope he loves his. He's got to have grandkids. I'm sure he loves them more than he does his company. I hope so. So everyone can have that. But then when you live that life, then it now reverts to an issue of economics. Do you have the excess funds or resource? Let's call it resources, because it's going to be time and money to go have fun, to go have a legacy. And then it's a personal choice. If you could take the very truthful outlook that, well, none of this matters anyway, and I'm here now, especially if you don't believe in an afterlife, well, then I could see you leaning more towards the fun side of things. But if you're more of an intellectual, you like tinkering. Some people just want to create stuff, and they don't even care if they get recognition. I think Tesla would be one. The guy who created Bitcoin, we don't know who he or possibly she is. They just want to do it. I don't think these people went out like, I want to be famous and remembered forever. This certainly was not my intention with what minor legacy I'm going to have of my books and a-hole could so. It was just like, hey, this would be fun. Oh, I want to write this book. So the intellectual, and not even necessarily an artist like writing books or painting, but even the entrepreneur, as you pointed out, the creative mind, they're probably going to lean more towards not legacy, but I want to do something with my life that is different than what everybody else does. And so I think it really boils down to the individual person, and neither is wrong. And as you rightly point out, and I would argue as well, I think they're not mutually exclusive. Matter of fact, I think fun would lead to legacy. So if you do everything right and you get your ducks in order, you work hard at let's use a stay-at-home mom as a perfect example. You're young, you get married early, you get married, you have kids, you raise your kids. Traditionally speaking, well, that's blasphemy now. You love it, and then at the age of 38 or 40, your kids, well, 18 from 40, 20, let's say 40, 45, somewhere in there. Your last kid leaves the home. They can kind of take care of themselves. All right, you have had a legacy in having your family and your children. But nothing says you can't go to school. Heck, I mean, most kids by the age of 12 kind of take care of themselves. The stay-at-home mom could go to school or get her accounting degree, right? And then she leaves a legacy in the form of a profession. So I think you could still have both. If you're good at time management, if you piss away your 20s and go 100,000 in a debt for a worthless undergrad, then another 100,000 for a third tier law school degree, and then you don't need no man until you're 35. Well, now you've got financial troubles, and once again, you've enslaved yourself to debt. You've managed your time poorly, and now you don't have the option of a legacy, albeit in as minor as something as being a good dentist or being a good mechanic. or whatever else have you. But the point is, you could have legacy as a family, then have legacy as a profession, or writing books, or whatever it is that your hobbies and intellectual interests are. But if you're more the fun type, there's your little wild cards. All right. So, what's his name? Hugh Hefner was the fun type, obviously. Well, he left a legacy. That fun led to it. I think Orville and Wilbur Wright, they're like, let's learn to fly. Sounds pretty fun to me. And then you could say some adventurer types like me, riding motorcycles all over the place. And certainly hedonistic, not going to leave a legacy. Oh, I drove to Alaska, or I hiked through Moab. Well, thousands, millions would probably have done that. But then you write a book, a little bit of a legacy there. But even if you get all the fun, particularly I would say fun would correlate with youth because it's all new. Here's where novelty and the shelf life comes in. It all gets boring, it all gets tiring, and it all loses its allure. And so I think if you have, I don't want to say a low IQ, but you just don't care if you leave a legacy, you just want to party like it's 1999. I don't know anyone like that. You inevitably get tired, you get burnt out. Then what most people would do, unless they had that passion for life, they will retire early, they'll golf, they'll watch TV, they won't do anything unique or notable in their lives. But there's a strain of people out there that want to go have fun. And then they want to sail around the world, or they want to climb mountains. Some usually, it's not like I just want to party and drink where they engage in vice, but I want to go do something fun, but it's an achievement. I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I want to kayak the Mississippi. Those people are a little bit more industrious. And as they get older, and shoot, as their body poops out on them, okay, I can't do the physical things like I used to when I was 25. Now that I'm 55, maybe they go and they start a business. Maybe they go and they tinker. Maybe they create the hydrogen engine. Yeah, heck, I mean, a perfect example would be Albert Einstein, who was a patent clerk at first. And I think his studying of physics was self-taught. I don't think maybe he did go to college later on and get his doctorate. I don't know. But if I remember correctly, his hobby was physics. And so I would think as people age, or if you're a particular intellectual type, you're inevitably going to end up in leaving some form of a legacy beyond family, while also could be a hedonist at the same time. And certainly there's going to be those fun-only people, the true hedonists. Well, they're happy just doing whatever they want to do, and God bless you, and go have a good old time. And you're not wasting your life if you're having fun doing what you want. But I think even the most vice-addicted hedonists and fun people, I'd be like, oh man, unless you're like on drugs and your brain ain't working right, even they're kind of like, I gotta do something else. And so then they can go ahead and leave a late. Now, some of them, this is where luck and history and your environment comes in. Some, you're right guy, right place, right time, and you're General Eisenhower. Okay, but it doesn't have to be. It could be something as simple as a nice painting. You're not even a famous artist, but your painting makes it into a real museum, a good museum, not like the Walker Art Center. And thousands of people just really like that painting. Or you write a book and people like that book. Or it's not going to make the New York Times bestseller, but thousands of people off into the future. So I'll say another thing of legacy. You have to then leave something. And I don't necessarily mean a physical thing, but it could be a digital thing now, I guess. You could say a lot of these content creators, as long as YouTube stays up, they're leaving a legacy for people to. Now it's ubiquitous. There's billions of videos, I'm sure, and not everyone's gonna. But just because you pass away doesn't mean your videos won't live on or your books won't live on. But there's some everybody can do. And heck, you all probably hit, the uncle or your grandpa, and he was a woodworker and he made furniture, and then that piece of furniture is passed on. You go to antique stores. I got an old lighter from 1869, and it was from a Mr. Hiroshima to a Mrs. something or other. And Who are these people? We don't know. But a little bit of a legacy, there was a friendship there. Uh, so I wouldn't, if you are going to leave a legacy, I would not be arrogant about it. Do not be, not selfish. Don't, arrogance is, I guess, or grandiose. Don't be full of yourself. Do what you want to do because then you are not wasting your life. And then if it doesn't have to get popular for you to have a legacy. And if it gets popular, great, you make it into the history books. What value is of that? I don't know. You're dead. You're not around. I mean, if you believe in the afterlife, then this is a very academic discussion that we're having here. But if you're up in heaven or you're down in hell, it's always like I'd imagine. Then you'd watch from above, and it'd be like a sports game, and you cheer on your family. You like to see, oh, look, my kid, he kept the classic car in the family. Oh, good. I can't wait till he dies and he comes up here to see me. So you get that benefit of believing in an afterlife. But from a more of a practical economic perspective, do not waste your time trying to be a legend. Go and spend your time on whatever product, project, hobby, masterpiece, opum, magnus opum, whatever. Do that so that you're happy with your life, and it'll be a challenge. But you'll climb that mountain, swim the Mississippi, whatever it is that you want to do, so that when you're on your deathbed, you don't have no regrets. And then it's up to society whether or not you'll become legendary and leave a legacy or not. And so I don't think it's an if or. I think it's both. You can have fun, and there's I just wish I could be like some people who are like, I'm gonna watch TV, I'm gonna have a cigar and have a drink and not do anything today. I'm like, I'm gonna take a bath. I'm like, how do you do that? All right, let's go to the super chats if there are any. Holy cow, look at this. Cappy's buying some Poke Bowl today. Taiwan Do for €2. Enjoy the decline, dude, with some money preferably. Yes, or crypto. Adriano Ramos, our Mauritian Australian agent in the field, for $2 Australian. Number one pop singer in 1962 was Ray Charles. Okay, I'll take that back. He's actually talented. Ray Charles was good. I think he's passed away, correct? Baby, it's all right. Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, we had higher standards back then. Swallow Blue for $5. Due to the size of our sun, okay, I knew Swallow was going to help us out, which is average. It will expand to encompass the entire solar system and promptly collapse. Oh, it will expand that large? Really? It's too small. It's too small to go supernova. Okay, thank you, Swallow. I thought it would. Oh, wow, that's going to be a huge sun. All the way out to Pluto, which is still a planet, by the way. Just think, what party pooper, what Buzz Killington came up with that? It's not a planet. Scott Lutke for $2. He has nothing to say. DJ, is this DJ Aftershock or just DJ? For $4. Cappy, thoughts on Biden's business loan PPE? Worth it? I don't know. I don't pay attention to politics, but if it's any kind of loan from the government, it's not worth it, because unless you're like multi-billion-dollar company, the amount of labor and compliance costs with these PPP loans that was under Trump, or now I guess Biden's come out with his own variation of it. It's not. Even Chad was like, "Hey, you should apply." I said, "No, I don't want to apply for it." And he's like, "Oh, glad you didn't." When I had to find what's it called, health insurance, I found like, well, you go through the exchange, you qualify for a $200 subsidy. I'm like, really? They're like, yeah, you got to pay it back though. I'm like, no, I'm not. No. Here's your money. Leave me alone. Go away. Oh, Nonstop Dre. Here's the Nonstop Dre, $5. Do you think legacy is just human ego trying to live on after death? That's why I said don't let your ego get involved in it. I mean, have some egomaniacs become legendary, certainly. I mean, one could argue almost every president is an egomaniac. Certainly Osama bin Laden. But I would say the legacies that actually help humanity or benefit humanity, those are people who had a passion for what they were doing, and they didn't give a damn whether or not society valued it or not. They wanted to do it for themselves. So, and I'll give you a perfect example. My worst selling book, I mean, I do have like the best of and some ancillary publications, which I don't consider real books. But my worst selling book is Behind the Housing Crash. But if you ask me what was the leg, I would say that was like my epitomal economic work. More popular one, obviously, is Batch-Pad Economics, and more recently, the Book of Numbers. But that was a bit of a legacy, and I don't care if people read it or not or appreciate it or not. I nailed the housing market. I nailed it. That is a proverbial finger to all the bankster scum and the lying sacks of filth that the predominantly boomers was in the finance industry was, and I nailed it. But would I have liked it, people? Yeah, I would have liked it if people like read that book and, oh wow, at the time before the crash happened, it would have been great. But no, I'm happy. I'm perfectly satisfied with the work. TFM, who you can find on BitChute, Turd Flaming Monkey, mentioned that once you remove ego and greed, you won't fear death. Thought, no, you'll fear death. No, I've removed ego and greed, and then when I had my cancer scare, not that I never didn't fear death, but it just came up a little bit more close and personal. Yeah, you're going to fear death because you don't know what it is, and you cannot not be afraid of the unknown. And it really forces you. What do you got? What do you believe? Because boy, there's nothing worse facing death or going through it, not knowing what you think might be on the other side, even though you have no proof. So I could see where religion, even if there's no proof, or you're going to have to believe something. Simeon Panides, a new guy I don't recognize. Welcome, Simeon. $10. Chicken wing shortage just enough. Is the cure to obesity on the way? Yes, it's called labor shortages and communism. UBI has it has paralyzed a significant percentage of the population among supply chains issues due to the disease. But now people can't find workers because we're paying people not. Oh my gosh, if we pay people not to work, they won't. Oh, where is there nothing I can buy with my stimmy check? So the cure to obesity will be on the way once socialism is enacted. And then we'll all be, just ask Venezuela. Christoph Anan, $5. Hyperinflation is a very effective form of weight loss. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Is that it? We got one more. Oh, one more. Here we go. Nonstop Drake, 360 again. Dwarf planets are like guys under 6 feet and don't exist. Are you over 6 feet, Dre? I thought you. Yeah, I think you were. Like, you were significantly taller. Yeah, dwarf planets are like guys under 6 feet tall. They don't exist. All right, there you go. All right, questions, answers, more on the way. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.